Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Russ Ketchum. I'm a group product manager at Google, and I lead mobile app analytics. I can hardly believe that it's already been a year since we stood on a stage not too far from here and introduced Firebase, Google's integrated app developer platform. And with it, we launched Firebase Analytics, our all-new apps-first analytics platform that we built from the ground up to be completely free and completely unlimited. And since last year, analytics remains a key investment area, not just for Firebase, but for Google as a whole. And at Google, we take a unified approach to our measurement solutions. And so to underscore that for all of our users, we wanted to formally introduce you all to our new name. And that's Google Analytics for Firebase. So Google Analytics is, of course, the most used digital analytics solution in the world. And we think with our new name, we're going to make it clear to all of our customers, web, app, and otherwise, that we're building towards a unified solution. And now, while our name is changing, our commitment to app developers and app analytics remains unchanged. And we fully appreciate that the challenges that the developer community faces they're daunting and are in many ways very unique. Let's take a look at some of them. So building a successful app and with it a successful business is really hard. Finding a way to make that process repeatable is even harder. It's really, really hard. But as Google, we believe that good data is often the key to unlocking that type of success. But for developers, you also know that even having access to good quality data is in itself really hard. So the amount of time that people spend on mobile devices, I don't need to tell you this, is just staggering. And then of the time spent on mobile, over 85% of it is spent engaging with apps. And that usage, in turn, throws off just a ton of data. And very few tools are available to actually help developers capture all of that, particularly tools that are within reach of developing businesses. But if you could assume for a second that you had a tool that would help you collect all that data, you then have to be able to find trends that are responsible for your successes and your failures. And even if you're able to spot those trends, it's not good enough to just have simple understanding in a vacuum. You need to be able to use that data in all the places that you care about and take action and drive your business forward. And these are exactly the type of challenges that we're building Google Analytics for Firebase to help you solve. So today, we're going to talk about Google Analytics for Firebase from 3 slightly different angles. First, I'm going to step us through what we see as the core of our analytics offering. Then I'm going to have Steve come up and join us, and he's going to talk about some exciting enhancements we're introducing today to our reporting capabilities. And then finally, Krista's going to come up, and she's going to talk about growth strategies and how you can use our cross-network attribution solutions to really drive your business forward. So turning to our core, when we approached Google Analytics for Firebase, we built a solution to be completely free and completely unlimited, even for the largest of apps. So now you have the opportunity to understand all of your data without compromise. And this includes all of your raw event data, all accessible and all for free. But what's more, though, is analytics works simply by adding Firebase to your app. Analytics is just set up automatically. And right out of the box, you get access to the most important signals, and you have all that information summarized for you at your fingertips. So let's take a look at that. So this is our app dashboard. It provides summaries of all your key data points and then has drill-ins for deeper analysis throughout the product. So I'm going to step through and zoom in on some of these cards quickly. The first, right at the top, is helping you understand key engagement metrics. This is the active users card. So here we're zoomed in. It has daily, weekly, monthly active users. Like all of our line plots, it has a comparison to the previous period. And it quickly summarizes user engagement. Then, when you look at a different definition of user engagement, you're able to see how much time your customers are spending actually engaged with your app. And ideally, that engagement is turning into revenue. And so here on the average revenue card, we're summarizing average revenue per user, also per paid user, again, broken out by the same daily, weekly, and monthly summaries. For many apps that monetize effectively, they're using in-app purchases. In-app purchase is an event that's able to be captured automatically, both on iOS and on Android. And the IAP summary card summarizes your top transactions and then has a drill-in link for more detailed reporting. To drive successful businesses, particularly those built around IAP, user acquisition strategy is key. And that's where cross-network attribution comes in. And you're able to use the cross-network attribution summary to understand your best-performing channels and how those channels are turning into lifetime value with a deep link to the full report. And what's the point of acquiring users if you can't keep them? And that's what you're seeing here in the cohort summary. Krista's going to come up and talk about these techniques a bit more in just a few minutes. Switching gears a little and moving down the dashboard, you're also going to find device and app info. So here you're looking at the app versions card. This is the devices card, and it summarizes the model of the device along with OS information. And then this last set of cards gives you more insight into your users. Here we're looking at location information. And then by sprinkling in some Google proprietary data, you're seeing age and gender information. And then lastly, interest category information. So all great data quickly summarized for your users. It's great that all of this works out of the box and is automatic, but you're not limited to the automatic events. We built Google Analytics for Firebase to be highly extensible, so you can track up to 500 distinct events, each with 25 different parameters, and log those events on a complete unlimited basis. If you don't know what to track, we go so far as to suggest different types of events to you based on the different types of apps that you might have. It's a great way to jumpstart your implementation, but it also helps you understand even more deeply around these behaviors because many of these events feature first-class reporting. It's great to have it all brought together and summarized, all your data, but what's the point of having it in a silo? You need to have it available to you in all the places where you care about. And so Google Analytics for Firebase is, of course, at home in the Firebase console. This is where many of you know and expect it to live. It's also available in the Google Analytics UI. And so this way, all of the users across your organization can have access to the same analytics capabilities in whatever product they're most familiar with. But that's not all. Your analytics data is also available for you in cloud messaging, both to understand what's happening and to use for targeting. The same's true for remote config. Your analytics data works with crash reporting to help you understand engagement patterns that might be leading to crashes. And it can be used natively with Cloud Functions. Cross-network attribution in analytics works in a complementary way with dynamic links. And for enterprise customers, analytics works across the Google Analytics 360 suite. One of the ways that it works with the 360 suite is through Google Tag Manager. Tag Manager lets you remotely configure the event measurement from your app from a web UI. You can modify events you're already tracking. You can have one event fire in response to another event. And you can even send your event data to other destinations, not just at Google, but with also our tag template partners, including Kochava and Tune and many others. And then simply by linking Firebase to AdWords, your analytics data is available for you to use for conversion tracking and actually use as a signal to drive all of your app-related campaigns. And so while this equips you with the start of the right data in many of the places where you need it, like I said, it's really just the start of the right data. So with that, I'm going to invite Steve up on stage, and he's going to showcase some of our latest announcements related to reporting. Steve?
Thank you. Thanks, Russ. Good afternoon, Google I/O. My name's Steve Gannam, and I'm a product manager on analytics. Before coming to Google, I actually spent almost 20 years developing video games, and I launched about 30 titles in that time frame. And let me tell you, there's nothing more exciting than launching a game. Now, you work on this thing for months or perhaps years to get it ready, and it starts to come together and become fun. And then you finally get to the point where you're ready to put it out there in front of your real users and press and get that feedback you've been looking for. And I know a lot of you can relate with launching your own products. Last year, right here at Google I/O, when we launched Firebase, I got that same thrill, that same buzz. And since then, I've had the opportunity to speak with many of you at events like this, on social media, good old Stack Overflow, and sometimes directly over email. And I've gotten a chance to help some of you understand your reports, but also to get your feedback on what's working well in the product and what we can do to improve it for you. And if I could categorize your feedback, it would generally fall in these two themes. First would be that you really want deeper reporting, and you want real-time features. And I'm excited to tell you that we have some pretty huge improvements in both of these areas that I'm going to tell you about today. First, what do I mean by deeper reporting? I mean that type of reporting that helps you better understand how users are behaving and performing in your apps, and also the type of reporting that helps you understand how your app business is performing. Sometimes this is a matter of Google connecting dots for you by augmenting your data with other data that Google has. And sometimes it's just a matter of surfacing data that you're already collecting in more insightful ways. And one feature that's a perfect blend and showcase for both of these things is our brand new integration with AdMob. Now, you may have heard Sissy talk about this in the keynote just preceding this, but this integration finally allows data to flow between the two platforms and goes a long way towards us enabling deeper reporting for those 1+ million apps that are using AdMob today. You see, showing an ad in your app isn't as simple as a binary decision anymore. There's lots of decisions to make. There's a decision of what primary network to use, what mediated networks to use, what formats, where to place your ads, refresh rates, how to render native ads, and if you're using rewarded ads, how much of a reward to give to your users. And beyond that, showing an ad in your app isn't something you do in a vacuum. This is a sacrifice of the real estate of your app, and you need to make sure that as you're earning revenue, you're not sacrificing the user experience, or else you might win the revenue battle and lose the overall user engagement and retention war. You need to pick the right winning strategy for your app. And analytics can help you measure that winning strategy. But first, you need to get your AdMob data into analytics. And that's exactly what we've done for you with this integration. It's entirely automatic. Just by dropping in the supported versions of our SDKs into your app, we'll automatically bring AdMob impressions and clicks into AdMob. Into analytics, not just for AdMob, but for any networks that you mediate through AdMob as well. And because we have this direct integration with AdMob, we can also pull your AdMob revenue into analytics and factor it into key business performance indicators, like average revenue per user and the LTV of your ad campaigns. So now you have an overall revenue metrics that take into account both your purchase revenue and your ads revenue. And you can go deeper with this. In addition to showing you these metrics, you can break it down in a number of ways. We let you break them down by ad unit, ad format, ad source, and also by screen. Because we know where these ads are being shown in your app, we can help you understand which screens are performing better in terms of your ad revenue. And because all of this is happening at the event level, this data that we're bringing in from AdMob, you can go even a step further and apply your audience filters and user property filters to understand how ad performance differs among different segments of your user base. That's especially important when trying to build a winning strategy for your app, for advertising, because then you can A/B test and understand how different strategies actually perform. Now, we've given some of you early access to this, and some of the feedback that's come back has been incredibly encouraging. Kenichi Kaneko, president of BWorks Games, had this to say. He said, "This integration has completely changed the way we think about game design and monetization. And we hope it can do the same for you as well, help you fundamentally think about what your ad strategy should be, since now you can really measure it and understand not just the impact on revenue, but also on user engagement and retention." So needless to say, we're really excited to get this in your hands. If you're interested in trying this out, it's available today. Just check out our Help Center article for more information. And you can check out the reports as well in our demo project for Firebase, which is available on the Firebase console through the link Explore Demo Project. And you can see this reporting in action for a real app. We also have a session entirely dedicated to this on Friday that you definitely should check out. It's called AdMob and Firebase Better Together. All right, continuing with the theme of deeper reporting, I want to touch on something that you've been really vocal about since launch last year, and it revolves around event parameters. So events are the data points of analytics. You log events to tell us what's happening in your app, what actions users are taking. And you associate parameters with them to contextualize those events. So it's not just that a purchase occurred, but you can tell us what product was purchased. As Russ mentioned, our API is extensible, though, and you can tell us You can log custom events that correspond to specific features that you have in your app and attach parameters to those as well. And although you can use those events and parameters, those custom events and parameters in audience definitions, reporting around the values of those parameters has historically been related only to those suggested events that we prescribe for different business verticals that Russ showed you. But you've been very vocal about the need to see reporting on those parameter values in analytics. And so today I'm excited to tell you that we actually made that available to you now. We're launching custom parameter reporting in analytics. So, all right. So next time, and this is available now, you don't need a new SDK for it. If you just go to your event detail report in analytics, you'll see this prompt to add event parameters that you want to see reporting on. Now, you can register up to 50 of your most important event parameters. Typically, you'll send us either a number or a text parameter. And here's what you'll get out of that. When you send us a number, we'll produce both a sum metric and an average metric. And there's different use cases for both of those. So if you pass, in this case, I'm showing a screen where for a product purchase, I want to show a sum metric of the product value. So I have a high-level view of how much money I'm making through these purchases compared to the last period. It's pretty simple and easy to understand. But it doesn't have to be revenue related. You can do this to track any high-level key performance indicators in your app. So for example, if you have a music streaming app, you want to measure what's the total amount of time that users are spending listening to music or watching video. Or if you have a travel app and you want to see how far your users are traveling, you can measure that as well. And we compare it against the previous period, so you can filter this as well and see how it differs among the different segments of your user base. Additionally, we also supply you with an average metric. Pictured here is an event from my game called Level End, where I log the total score. So looking at the average here, plotted against the previous period, I can see what the average scores are for users who are playing my game. And I find the average one to be actually especially insightful. We'll have to see what you come up with. But some really common things you can use this for, really useful questions you can answer, are things like, on average, how many friends does a user have when they make their first post in my social network? On average, how much time does a user spend in my app before they make their first purchase? How far are users traveling in their morning jog? And now it's a cinch to get those answers in analytics just by registering those numeric parameters. Additionally, you're also passing us text parameters. Here's another example from my app. It's a game, it's a skateboarding game, and users are unlocking various achievements, and now I can get a breakdown of the most popular achievements that they're unlocking and graph them against each other to see what their popularity and distribution is like. Now, you can use this in your app to see things like what's the most popular content, or what are the most popular search terms, and also on what screens are certain actions taking place. And again, as I mentioned with all analytics reports, you can then filter these reports by your audience segments and user properties to see how behavior is different among the different segments of your user base, because it will be. And the better you understand that, the more tailored you can make your app experience and your app updates to serve your audience. I'm personally very excited about this one. It's something I wanted in my own apps, and so I'm anxious to put it in your hands so you can give it a shot too. Again, this is available today. You don't need a new SDK for it. So you may have noticed that I mentioned screens a couple of times, both in the context of the AdMob integration and also with regards to custom parameter reporting. That's because now we started tracking screens automatically for you. So what we'll do here is as users transition from screen to screen, there's a couple of things we do for you. The first is that signal of transition. We log a new event called Screen View for you that identifies the screen that you're going to as well as the screen you came from. Secondly, this is context. Wherever we can as an analytics product, we want to augment your reporting by adding context to your events. So for example, we add demographics, locations, and interest data so you know better who is using your app. Now we've added screens into the mix, so you have a sense of where certain actions are taking place in your app. And this enables us to produce actually a new report on the dashboard, which breaks down user engagement in your app by screen. Now you can see where users are spending time in your app. What are the most popular screens there? And again, you can segment this to get down to the lower grain trends. And now you can't talk about deeper reporting without at least touching on Data Studio. Late last year, we launched our beta reports of our report templates for Data Studio. And this Data Studio is an awesome product that showcases what's possible when you link your Firebase app to BigQuery, because it visualizes your raw data and allows you to fully customize your own dashboard using that raw data, produce the metrics you care about in the order you care about, and share them with the rest of your organization. But I'm going to give you a walkthrough of this in a bit using my own app so you can see it in action. Now, a common theme here has been the use of context to better understand the app actions. And one place that's especially important to understand that context is in regard to a recent launch from our friends over at Android, and that's Android Instant Apps. The Android Instant App experience is seamless. It combines the accessibility of a website with the rich user experience of a native app. And because it's so different, it stands to reason that users will actually behave differently in the Instant App, and that's kind of the point, right? But in terms of measurement of Instant Apps, you need three things. The first is that you need a high-level overview across your Instant App and installed app of what the user performance and behavior is like, so you can track your KPI and understand from a business point of view how you're doing. But you need the ability also to distinguish between Instant App behavior and installed app behavior, so that you can understand, since it's such a new technology, you need to understand how Instant App behavior is different for your users as well. And thirdly, it's very common for users to graduate from an Instant App to the installed app. And when they do, you want to make sure that you're measuring that person as a single user rather than two completely disjoint users. In all three of these ways, we've thought ahead for you, and analytics can support you in all these use cases. We've put together a developer guide to help you think about how you ought to measure Instant Apps. And you can check that out. And if you're thinking of building an Instant App for your own business, just know that Firebase has you covered there. OK, so that covers for the deeper reporting section. Now I want to move on to the real-time reporting section. Google Analytics launched its real-time reporting almost 6 years ago. And it was way ahead of its time and really set the standard for real-time reporting. And so when we set out to build our own real-time reports in Google Analytics for Firebase, we already know that how users love to view these reports. Knowing what your end users are up to in your app is inspiring, and it's insightful. And it's also critical, this real-time nature of it, for validation and for debugging your app. So we wanted to set out to build reporting that satisfied all these same use cases. And so earlier this year, we launched a series of reports to do so, starting with StreamView. StreamView gives you a real-time view of your analytics data as we collect it. And it's not just fast, it's rich, it's dynamic, and it's surprisingly deep. You get event location detail down to the city level, and event data down to the parameter level. And as you're exploring and try to understand how your users are behaving, you can actually apply these as filters to find out, for example, what are users in San Francisco buying? Or where are the top players in the world located? You can apply a user property filter to get at that. To see the individual journey of a user, user snapshots can deliver you that. User snapshots is like a virtual focus test. We visualize the stream of events coming from a single device along a timeline. And so as you're following this, it's like you're following a user's progression through your app. I mentioned it's like a virtual focus test. Anyone who's administered a focus test knows that invariably your users use your product differently than you think they do, and you're going to learn something. I mentioned before about how we log a screen view event automatically for you. You'll see that show up here, and the sequence of screen view events actually identifies the user's path through the app. And you can see the events that they log there, and even the crashes that are logged if you've integrated crash reporting. You'll also see ad impressions and clicks show up here now through our AdMob integration. We realize this interface is also ideal for debugging, and that's why we built Debug View on top of it as well. As an app developer myself, I know how critically important it is to instrument your app right the first time. If you make mistakes in your tracking and you release that app version, it will be haunting you forever, sending polluted data into your analytics, and there's no way to get rid of it. So we wanted to build a tool that helps you to validate it and get it right and ensure that your data is going to be pristine after you launch your app. Debug View lets you It logs the events in real time from your development devices. It lets you examine every single event, every parameter you're sending, every user property as it changes. And if there are any errors in your tracking, we don't hide those. We actually log an error, event, or parameter, along with the necessary details and links to Help Center articles to help you address that and validate it before you launch. The feedback on all of this real-time reporting has been awesome so far. As an analytics PM, you don't often get to build something that actually inspires emotion. So when you know that you do, or when you do, you know you've done something special. And this one on the top middle, I don't know if you can read it, is actually my favorite. And it says, my next child will be called Debug View. And I love that because I named it, and so I think it's a beautiful name. And right now, my daughter is relieved at home because she's not named Debug View Ganem. But anyway, you can see that the feedback has been exceptional. But some of you have told us that you actually need access to the underlying real-time data from the real-time reports. And so we've made that possible through our integration with BigQuery. Now, because the BigQuery question comes up all the time, and a lot of you have questions about how it works, I want to walk you through the process of linking to BigQuery, using it, and showing you how you can layer Data Studio on top of that. So can we switch to the video, or to the demo, please? OK, so here I'm in my Firebase console, and I go to my project settings, which is where I'm at now. And this is for my own game project. And you can choose here to link to BigQuery. Here is where you'd have to enter your billing information. Mine's already here. So I choose to continue, and now I can look at the links to my data sets. Going over to look at my data set here, you can see I have one data set for my Android app and one for my iOS app. Each of them has daily tables full of data. So I have 469 days worth of data in my Android data set, but also this intraday data set. Intraday meaning these are the events that we've received throughout today, right up until right now. So as users are logging events in my app right now, they're being sent in real time from our backend over to this BigQuery data set. And I can run queries on it. This is a simple one just to see the list of names of events. And you can get that. It's a pretty simple one, but you can imagine that you can export this data, visualize it, combine it with your own, whatever you need. But I want to show you a better way, perhaps, for those of you who have ideas for how you want to visualize it, but maybe not the availability or the technical chops in SQL. That's why we built our Data Studio integration. We've hand-built 3 pages of reports here to help you go deeper with your analytics data. And these were hand-built by analytics and Data Studio PMs, as I mentioned. And you can apply multiple filters all at once to go deeper with this. So for example, I'm going to apply here a level end filter, event filter. And maybe if I want to know what levels my users are playing, I can apply that. And I see the breakdown of the school and the rooftops level. Maybe I want to know what cities users are playing rooftops, because that's my advanced level. That'll tell me where my power users are. And I can see that Sao Paulo is actually extremely popular, which isn't surprising if you know anything about the skateboarding culture. But here's how easy it is to customize it. I click on that. I can say maybe I don't want events. I want a count of users. And I don't want city. I want to look at my app versions. And tables are so boring. I want a pie chart. And then I want to change this to app version. And just like that, I've customized it. And I can share it with Russ, show him how hard I worked to produce this for him. So it's that easy. And a lot of you have questions about how expensive is this? How much? Because typically working with raw data is expensive. Well, Data Studio is entirely free. Unlimited number of reports, unlimited number of sharing, customization. And of course, it queries your BigQuery data. But BigQuery has historically offered a 1 terabyte per month free tier. It's extremely generous. For some apps, it would be really hard to use that all up in a month. But today, BigQuery has also launched a 10 gigabyte per month free storage tier, making this just ridiculously cheap and affordable to work with your raw data. So I have to highly encourage you to do so. All right, go back to the slides. So that was a lot of stuff I know we covered, but actually that's not all we're up to. So I want to invite Krista to the stage to tell you more. Krista?
Thank you, Steve. So my name is Kristy Sidon, and I am also a product manager on Google Analytics for Firebase. So we've just heard from Steve about a ton of awesome new features that have just been released in Google Analytics for Firebase. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited by a lot of these. So now, let's look at how you can use a lot of these new features, along with some of our core product functionality, to help you drive growth and attribution for your businesses. Now, once you've built and launched your app, you want to pay close attention to your analytics data to understand how your app is being used. You'll also want to understand the sources of traffic driving users to your app and determine your highest value networks and campaigns for conversion events, such as first opens, in-app purchases, and more. An important way to determine who your best users are is by understanding their post-install behavior with conversion events. So consider what the drivers for your business are. Out of the box, we mark first open and in-app purchase as conversion events. But every business is different, every business is unique, and you're going to have different events that might be meaningful for your business. So I would encourage you to go ahead and mark those events as conversion events in the UI to unlock attribution reporting on those events. For example, you might decide that something like an app update is a really good signal of user engagement with your app. And so you might want to mark app updates as a conversion event to unlock attribution reporting on app updates. By doing so, you'll have further visibility into the various ad networks you're running campaigns on by seeing which campaigns are leading to more engaged, higher value users. Simply put, conversion events allow you to focus on the most valuable events and users and determine your high value campaigns driving engagement in your app. Now that we've covered the basics on understanding how users are finding your app and what they're doing in there, I want to talk to you about attribution. So we've built several integrations to help you grow with a single SDK. First up, universal app campaigns. So you cannot have a successful mobile app business without having a successful growth strategy. And you need to answer two questions to execute on that successful growth strategy. First, who are the best customers for your app? And second, where do you find them? Which media channels are most effective at finding these customers and getting them to install and use your app? And that can be complex. So we've built universal app campaigns, or UAC, to help you reach people across multiple billion user properties, including Google Play, Search, YouTube, Gmail, and millions of apps and sites across the display network. All you have to do is tell us the app you'd like to promote, the price you're willing to pay per install, and a few more bits of information like the ad text, your videos, and your assets. And UAC will then do the work by using machine learning to deliver the maximum number of installs at the price that you've specified. And UAC is now even better. AdWords has launched the ability to optimize for higher value installs. This means that you're not just optimizing for the number of installs, but also for the post-install events, such as in-app purchase, that you've specified as conversion events through Firebase. Now, UAC is an incredible feature in AdWords that we know will help you bring a lot of high-value users to your app. But let's say that you're a large marketer or a large developer, and you manage and buy ads programmatically using the DoubleClick digital marketing suite. That's why I'm really excited to announce that today we have a new integration with DoubleClick digital marketing, and this is in beta as of today. Now, Firebase tracked install and post-install events can easily be imported back into DDM as conversions. This means that large advertisers can seamlessly integrate Firebase to their overall programmatic buying, measurement, and optimization needs using DoubleClick. But we know that you're not just advertising with AdWords and DoubleClick, and that's why we're continually investing in growing our third-party advertising network. Today, I'm excited to announce that we have over 50 ad network partners, and we're continuing to invest in this area. We've invested in integrating with all of these different pieces to help you advertise across platforms, allowing data from all of these to come together in the same platform to help you make solid decisions on the data that you're collecting. Simply put, we're creating a single source of cross-network attribution truth. Now that we've covered attribution, let's focus on using your analytics data to drive growth. Let's look at a case study. Who's Call is an app that acts as a type of caller ID. And their service model is a bit more passive than most because they're actually reliant on the frequency for which users are getting calls. So instead of focusing on something like retention rate as their most important metric, uninstall rate has become the most critical metric for Who's Call. So the Who's Call team started using Google Analytics for Firebase to log the removal of apps automatically. And with BigQuery, they were able to easily analyze that data in depth. They soon realized that they had a first-day uninstall rate of almost 70%. That is really bad. So armed with this data, the Who's Call team focused on improving the process of onboarding by running a bunch of A/B tests on getting people to accept permissions and keep the app. And what they were finally able to do was reduce that first-day uninstall rate by 14% and increase the retention rate by 6%. To sum this up, they said that using Firebase, we are able to consolidate and measure important metrics within a unified platform. It relieves the burden of data analysis and allows us to take action where it really counts. I think that this is a really, really great example of using your analytics data to actually drive growth. And that data will help you to not only understand where your users are coming from, but will give you insights into their behavior in your app. Now, you've been focused on growing your high-value users, and now you want to retain them. Using Google Analytics for Firebase, you can identify these high-value audiences and send these audiences for re-engagement campaigns. You can also use these audiences across other areas of Firebase, specifically to target them in cloud messaging and remote config. Recently, we launched a couple of updates to these targeting options. First, logical audience combinations, such as includes all of or includes at least one of. For example, you could target audiences that contain at least one of purchasers, lifetime value greater than 0, or high-scoring users with an offer for a free character in your app to incentivize them to come back. Second, you can now target using user properties in cloud messaging and remote config. For example, this screenshot shows a user property condition named high-level users. And this is users who are at or above level 20 in your app. Now devs can use this to customize the app experience for users of different skill levels by leveraging remote config. This allows you to get much more granular and specific with your targeting options to reach the users that you're interested in. So I've talked about several ways to understand your user behavior, drive growth and attribution with new integrations and expanded functionality. I hope that you'll give some of it a try. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Russ.
Thanks, Krista. Thanks, Krista. So we covered a lot of ground today. We introduced you to our new name, Google Analytics for Firebase. We looked at the core of analytics and the enhancements we've made to it. And then Krista took us through how you can use attribution to drive your growth strategies. But we really do hope that this session was the start of a conversation. And to keep that conversation going, there's a number of other Firebase sessions happening throughout the rest of I/O. I'd particularly like to highlight the session Steve mentioned earlier, the AdMob and Firebase Better Together session that's happening Friday morning at 8:30. Would hope you guys would all come and check that out. If you have questions, just want to engage with us personally, we're going to be at the Firebase Sandbox, so you can find us there, and we'd love to hear all your thoughts. With that, on behalf of the Google Analytics for Firebase team, thank you all for coming out, and enjoy the rest of I/O. Take care.